The chandelier's crystals mocked her, each facet a reflection of her gilded cage. The light refracted through the crystals, casting a myriad of colors that danced on the walls, a stark contrast to the darkness she felt inside. Each sparkle was a reminder of the life she was forced to lead, a life of opulence that felt more like a prison with every passing day. A sea of silk and smirking faces, the ballroom suffocated her. The grandeur of the room with its high ceilings and ornate decorations only added to her sense of entrapment. The laughter and chatter of the guests echoed in her ears, a cacophony of superficiality that she could no longer bear. She felt like a puppet, her strings pulled by the expectations of society, forced to dance to a tune she despised. Every laugh felt like a lie, every conversation a carefully constructed performance. She watched as people exchanged pleasantries, their smiles never reaching their eyes. It was a world of masks where true emotions were hidden behind layers of pretense. She longed for a genuine connection, for a moment of honesty in a sea of deceit. But here, in this ballroom, such a thing was a rare and precious commodity. She longed for fresh air, for honesty, for escape. The open doors seemed to beckon her, a promise of freedom just out of reach. She imagined herself stepping through it, leaving behind the suffocating atmosphere of the ballroom and breathing in the cool, crisp night air. But she knew it was just a fantasy, a fleeting dream that would never come true. She was trapped, bound by invisible chains that held her in place. Her fingers tightened around the champagne flute, the coldness a stark contrast to the heat building within. The glass was her anchor, something tangible to hold on to in a world that felt increasingly unreal. She could feel the bubbles of the champagne tickling her nose, a reminder of the life she was supposed to enjoy. But the taste was bitter, a reflection of her inner turmoil. She hated this world, these people, the suffocating expectations. The opulence that surrounded her felt like a mockery, a constant reminder of the life she was forced to lead. She despised the shallow conversations, the empty compliments, the endless charade. She wanted to scream, to break free from the constraints that held her, but she knew it was impossible. She was a prisoner, trapped in a golden cage. Yet, here she was, playing the part, a flawless jewel amidst the glitter and grime. Her red dress was a statement, a bold declaration of her presence, but it was also a mask, hiding the turmoil that raged within. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her smile never faltering, her eyes never betraying the storm inside. She was a master of the game, but it was a game she no longer wanted to play. A presence brushed against her back, sending a jolt through her. It was a touch that was both familiar and unsettling, a reminder of a past she had tried to forget. She could feel the heat of his hand through the fabric of her dress, a touch that was both comforting and terrifying. It was a connection she had not sought, but one that was impossible to ignore. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. His presence was unmistakable, a shadow that had loomed over her for years. She could feel his eyes on her, a gaze that was both penetrating and possessive. It was a look that had once made her feel special, but now it only filled her with dread. She knew that he would not let her go, that he would always be a part of her life, whether she wanted him to be or not. His scent, a heady mix of sandalwood and danger, had haunted her all evening. It was a scent that was both intoxicating and repellent, a reminder of the man who had once held her heart. She could feel his presence even when he was not there, a constant reminder of the life she had left behind. It was a scent that brought back memories, both good and bad, a reminder of a time when she had believed in love. The air crackled, the space between them suddenly charged. It was a tension that was both thrilling and terrifying, a reminder of the connection they had once shared. She could feel the electricity in the air, a spark that had never truly died. It was a connection that was both a blessing and a curse, a reminder of a love that had once been, and a future that could never be. The ballroom faded away, and for a moment, it was just the two of them, caught in a web of memories and emotions that neither could escape. "You're hiding!" His voice, a low rumble near her ear, sent shivers down her spine. He wasn't wrong. She was a prisoner of this life and of her own making. From boredom she parried, refusing to turn, to acknowledge the way her body thrummed at his nearness. His laughter was a sin, dark and laced with something that made her toes curl. "I think you're hiding from something much more interesting." His hand settled on her bare arm, his thumb stroking patterns against her skin. She gasped, the heat of his touch a brand against her cool facade. "Don't," she breathed. the word escaping like a plea. He was a dangerous game, one she couldn't afford to play, and yet she craved his touch, his attention, like a potent drug. He leaned closer, his lips brushing against her earlobe. The sensation was electric, sending a jolt through her body. She could feel his breath, warm and tantalizing, as he whispered words that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 secrets. "Why are you really here, darling?" His voice was a blend of curiosity and something more sinister, a tone that made her heart race and her mind whirl with possibilities. His question, laced with amusement and something darker, sent a shiver down her spine. It was as if he could see right through her, peeling back the layers of her carefully constructed facade. He saw too much. This stranger with eyes like molten gold. Those eyes seemed to pierce her very soul, uncovering truths she had long buried. She felt exposed, vulnerable, yet strangely drawn to him. She had to keep her distance, maintain the charade. Her mind raced with the implications of his presence, the danger he represented. She couldn't afford to let her guard down. Not now, not ever. Her quest for answers about her great-grandmother, a woman shrouded in scandal and whispers, had led her to this gilded cage. The mansion was a labyrinth of secrets, each room holding a piece of the puzzle she was desperate to solve. The truth, she believed, lay hidden within these opulent walls. Every ornate detail, every shadowy corner seemed to whisper of the past, of stories untold and mysteries unsolved. "Don't pretend you don't know," she challenged, her voice a husky whisper. She needed answers, and she was willing to confront the darkness to get them. He was a player in this game. She could feel it. His knowing smile, the way he held himself, all suggested he was more than just a casual observer. He was deeply entwined in the web of secrets she sought to unravel. Was he an ally or an enemy? The uncertainty gnawed at her, making her question every interaction, every word exchanged. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. She couldn't afford to be wrong. One misstep could cost her everything. Her determination hardened. She resolved to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. His grip tightened on her arm, pulling her closer until their bodies brushed. The contact was electric, a mix of fear and attraction that left her breathless. "Knowledge is power, darling," he murmured, his voice a caress. His words were a promise and a threat, a reminder of the stakes they were playing for. And some secrets are best left buried. His eyes bore into hers, conveying a depth of understanding and a warning. She knew then that the path she was on was fraught with danger, but turning back was no longer an option. The mansion seemed to come alive at night, its shadows whispering secrets of the past. She moved through the dimly lit hallways, her footsteps echoing softly, as if the very walls were listening. In the library, she found an old, dusty book. Its pages were fragile, yellowed with age, but they held the key to the mysteries she sought to unravel. Each word, each sentence was a piece of the puzzle. She read intently, her face illuminated by the soft glow of a single lamp. The stories within the book were both fascinating and terrifying, revealing a history of intrigue, betrayal, and forbidden love. Her fingers traced the lines of a family tree, connecting the dots between past and present. The names and dates told a story of a lineage marked by scandal and secrecy. She looked out of the window, lost in thought. The night was still, the stars twinkling like distant memories. She wondered what her great-grandmother had endured, what secrets she had taken to her grave. In a hidden compartment of the book, she found a locket. Inside was a photograph, faded but unmistakable. It was her great-grandmother, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and defiance. She held the locket close to her heart, tears welling up in her eyes. The connection she felt was profound, a bridge between the past and the present. She vowed to uncover the truth, to bring light to the shadows that had haunted her family for generations. Standing in front of a mirror, she saw her reflection, a woman determined to face whatever lay ahead. The journey would be perilous, but she was ready. The whispers of the past had become a roar, and she would not be silenced. Time was of the essence. Each tick of the clock was a reminder that the past and present were on a collision course. She had to act quickly, to piece together the fragments of history before it was too late. With renewed resolve, she walked purposefully down the grand staircase. The mansion, with all its secrets, was now her battleground. She was ready to confront the ghosts of the past and claim her destiny. Her eyes, filled with resolve, reflected the fire within her. She was no longer just a seeker of truth. She was a warrior, ready to fight for her family's honor and uncover the secrets that had been buried for too long. She opened a door, stepping into a room filled with light. The journey was far from over, but she was no longer afraid. The whispers of the past had guided her here, and she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. His words ignited a spark of fear, but also a thrill of excitement. It was a strange combination of emotions that she hadn't felt in a long time. The fear was real, palpable, but so was the excitement. It was as if she was standing on the edge of a precipice, looking down into the unknown, and yet, she couldn't help but feel a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. He knew something, she was sure of it. There was a glint in his eyes, a knowing look that made her skin prickle with unease. She had to find out what it was, no matter the cost. Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. But she couldn't let him see her fear. She had to stay strong, stay focused, and she would get it out of him, even if it meant playing his game. She had always been good at games, at reading people, at manipulating situations to her advantage. But this was different. This was personal. She could feel the weight of his gaze on her, the intensity of his presence. It was like a dance, a dangerous, seductive dance, and she was determined to lead. "Let go," she demanded, her voice sharper than intended. She didn't mean to sound so harsh, but the words came out before she could stop them. She needed to regain control, to assert her dominance. She couldn't let him see how much he affected her. She had to stay in control, to keep her emotions in check. The act, the carefully constructed wall she'd built around herself, threatened to crumble. She had spent years perfecting her facade, her mask of indifference. But now, in this moment, she felt it slipping. She felt exposed, vulnerable. She couldn't let that happen. She had to stay strong, to keep her guard up. His gaze held hers, a silent battle of wills. It was a test, a challenge. He was daring her to break, to show her true self, but she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. She met his gaze head-on, refusing to back down. She could feel the tension between them, the unspoken words, the hidden desires. It was a game of cat and mouse, and she was determined to win. He chuckled, a low rumble that vibrated through her. "Not a chance, sweetheart." His words were like a taunt, a challenge. He was enjoying this, enjoying the power he held over her. But she wouldn't let him win. She would find a way to turn the tables, to take control. She had to. The night is young, and I have a feeling we have a lot to discuss. He was right. There was so much left unsaid, so much tension between them. She could feel it in the air, in the way he looked at her, in the way he spoke. It was like a storm brewing, ready to break at any moment, and she was ready for it. She was ready to face whatever came next. She couldn't deny the pull she felt towards him, dangerous and exhilarating. It was like a magnet drawing her in, making her want to get closer, to know more. But she had to be careful. She couldn't let her guard down. She couldn't let him see how much he affected her. She had to stay strong, to stay in control. He led her onto the dance floor, his hand firm on her back, guiding her through the swirling crowd. It was a moment of intimacy, of connection. She could feel the heat of his touch, the strength of his grip. It was both comforting and unsettling. She had to remind herself to stay focused, to keep her wits about her. This was just another part of the game. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and yet strangely exhilarated. It was a heady mix of emotions, a cocktail of fear and excitement. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts, but she couldn't let him see that. She had to stay strong, to keep her mask in place. The game was on, and she was determined to play to win. She had come too far to back down now. She had to see this through, to find out what he knew, to get the answers she needed. She was ready for whatever came next, ready to face the challenges, the dangers. She was ready to play the game, and she was determined to win.